It's time now to check your money with America's money maven, Vicki Brackens. Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. And so while we've been listening to Vicki for the last couple of weeks, Vicki's back live with us. And you want to know what Vicki's been doing? So if you're watching it on our video at home, if you get this month's cover of the Syracuse Woman magazine, there she is, Miss Vicki Brackens, as the cover girl. I guess that's cover story. I guess cover girl. I don't know. Did I say something right? But anyway, I'm so conscious of language. But she's the cover of the Syracuse Woman, talking about opening doors for entrepreneurs. Vicki, you look great, and congratulations on being a cover. Can I say cover girl? I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Cover lady, cover woman. What you want to say, Vicki?
Well, okay. Thanks, George. That's what I want to say. And of course, I want to say thank you to Syracuse Women's Magazine for selecting me for the cover for November. I have been asked as far as where you can pick up the magazine. We can go all over Syracuse and Central New York, and in most of the retail locations like Wegmans and Tops and so forth, and pick that up. But the digital version, because that was a question, is usually not released until the end of the month. So if you go online right now, you're only going to see up until October. We are actually November. So I'd encourage you to go and get the real copy. Hold it up again, George.
You want to see that? Here it is, Syracuse
Okay,
Woman.
there you go. Okay, so you can go and get the real copy, and I'm sure when you walk into the grocery stores and retail establishments where the magazine is distributed, you'll recognize it right away.
Beautiful work.
And I think we'll wait until next week maybe.
Yeah, we're going to go
to read the article.
Right. We want to talk about philanthropy and some work that you're doing, and really excited to talk about that next week. So people, if you want to know, and I think one of the things you want to say is that it's more accessible than we think, which is
exactly okay.
The point you want to make.
It's this gigantic word that has in its feeling in the background, this gigantic feels like a gigantic gulf that you can't participate in, where it actually is something that's much more accessible than you think. And that's really the point of the article. And I thank the Central New York Community Foundation for even recommending that I be interviewed concerning this, okay, as far as some of the work that we've been doing.
So Vicki, before we get into your money, let's talk about some history this week. So since you've been away, a few things have happened. Like there was this, this is a little away in some ways, but not really away, right? Well, what you might have noticed that there was a presidential election last week, and that we kind of are still talking about it. But in any event, we have a new administration coming in. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I guess one of our shows has to be what we think the economic impact of that. So already, Vicki, we got 3 shows already booked.
3 shows booked, okay, really that took place or kind of sort of formed themselves, okay, because of recent events.
Yes. So, but let's talk about the history of having the first woman of color, a Black woman, South Asian and African-American woman, daughter of immigrants, an AKA, right, HBCU, the first African-American woman. And one of the things that Kamala Harris paid homage to is the fact that Black women certainly were key to her election. In fact, both Biden and Kamala Harris made that point about the Black community, but Black women in particular. How does that feel for you as a Black woman to see Kamala Harris as the first woman and the first woman of color vice president?
Well, I'm going to, and George, I know you're going to appreciate this, as will everyone in the audience, step back just a little bit to lay a little groundwork before I fully answer what does this mean to me.
Okay.
quite often we hear phrases like, first and historic, and we forget the fact that this is a process.
Right.
This is a process and a strategic process that unfolded over many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about what it took for the first Black woman and first South Asian woman, the first woman to crack that what we call, shatter the glass ceiling, it was a process that started when she was a child.
Mm-hmm.
It was a process that started before she was even born to lay the foundation and follow the strategy and utilize the tactics necessary for that to coalesce to create the situation or create the opportunity, and then have the audacity to follow the process all the way through. So what did it mean to me? First of all, it was a validation of the importance of strategic thinking and tactical actions to stay on course,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that not only are you staying on course, but you are being buoyed by thousands of individuals at the same time. Then I'll go to the emotional part. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that take place, watching the election results come in, actually starting to see that this was a possibility, and finally, and what is it? Faith is the evidence of things.
Mm-hmm.
Actually seeing how that faith over hundreds of years, 25, 30 years, okay, as far as her career, but for the community, see that actually happen. Of course, not only do I feel validated, okay, but I feel encouraged. And I know that, as she said, this is not, I am the first, but this will not be the last, because once that door is broken, once that ceiling is cracked, now all of that energy that got her there, and it was a collective energy that did that, will have the opportunity to grow and to prosper and to continue to flourish.
I must add this. We were talking in my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and as we, give pay homage to Black women, the AKAs and the D9 and everybody that came out, if it wasn't for Jim Clyburn, okay?
That's why I said that it is a collective, okay,
Right,
victory.
right, because
And
he
we've heard Vice President-elect Harris say that over and over.
Yes.
We've heard Stacey Abrams say that over and over. We've
Right.
heard Keisha Lance Bottoms say that over and over. Simone Simmons, okay, all the key individuals who are female who put this strategy together. It is a collective, and one of the best scenes that I saw during the election, I don't know if you saw it, George, was people electric sliding into the polls.
Yes. Oh, no, I didn't see that. Oh, okay.
Standing in line and doing the electric slide line dances to make sure that everybody stayed energized and committed to staying in line until they actually voted.
Nice.
In some of the early voting time slots.
Nice.
Because even the early votes were 2 or 3 hours in some locales.
Right, right.
But it was that commitment and that energy and bringing that all together to move this historic moment forward. I'm looking forward to it, but I want to make sure I say this. This is not the end. It is not as though we were running a race and we were now through the ticker tape and we stop and we sit down. This is the beginning of the work.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute beginning of the work. We are in the game now.
Okay.
Okay, this was the prep to get there. So everybody take about a 2-minute.
Take a breath.
Stretch. When you tell me in your exercise, stretch, breathe, limber up, because now the race begins.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And here's what I want to talk about the race beginning. We have now cracked the code or shattered the ceiling or reset the atmosphere, because we've talked about all three of those things over the last several months, I have said over and over that it's important that you know exactly where you are in your money when we get to this point, because winter is coming.
Yes, you have said that.
Okay, this is the time frame. So what we have to now focus on is that we have cracked the code on a political basis. We have cracked the code on an entertainment basis, but it is time to crack the code economically.
Sure enough. Talk to me.
We have no more time to skirt around this issue.
Mm-hmm.
The next 24 months are going to be vitally important to cracking the code for collective economic strength within our communities. I am not going to sit here and tell you that I have all the answers. What I will say is that we need to get together to have strategic, just like we did on the political sphere, strategic conversations around what is it going to take on a collective basis to move our communities as far as our wealth gap structure collectively to change the economic underpinnings of our communities. Just like we campaigned for elected offices, we must campaign around collective economic strength.
You know, George Fraser calls it the civil rights movement, right?
We'll call it silver. Okay, I'll take George. Civil rights. I'm calling it.
I'm just saying that that's what he calls it. In other words, exactly what you described. That we've had the political impetus and we've made some strides there, but now it's time to refocus. And he's been saying this for a minute, and you're reiterating what I've heard this said that way. Is what I'm trying to say.
So there was on Facebook, and I know a lot of people, because I have bunches of friends. Okay, but there's a photograph that was done, which was the 5 key elements of Black women who were instrumental in this particular reset, okay, or victory. I won't even call it reset, victory, as far as the political action that just took place. And what I noticed in that circle is I didn't see anyone whose primary focus was economic.
Oh, everybody was political.
Everyone was political. Okay, now, policy is important to economics, but we need focused efforts, because when you control your dollars, believe me, power is not just out there for political accolades. Power is looking at, where is my money? How is it going to affect my money? We need to start focusing on, where is the money?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to control our money? How are we going to collectively make sure that the dollars that we spend are being retained and applied to the things that are important to us as far as moving our communities forward? How do we lift all within the community, building what types of collective structures, so that when we go to the polls, it's about, not only are we voting for an individual, we're voting for structures and policies that will impact our communities on an economic basis. I'm going to close with this. I go to a lot of seminars, as you know, okay? One of the nice things about, and I shouldn't say nice, but one of the things that became an advantage through the pandemic is that conferences from around the world are now piped into my computer. So things that I wouldn't be able to get into a plane to fly across the country to see, I now can. Okay, it was an amazing one, okay, that took place a couple of days ago with a professor called, his name is Moshe Milevsky, and he was talking about, instead of looking at your longevity as far as your longevity, as far as your physical longevity, okay, we need to look at your biological longevity. And biological longevity, they are finding, which we knew, but it's now got a nice scientific term around it, that stress and economics will shorten your biological longevity. Or earning more will increase your biological longevity. Or having more wealth will increase your biological longevity. We, George, when we started talking about zero no more, I am so focused on zero no more as a collective call for everyone. So what I'm looking for and asking for this week is this. We need to now couple with our political action, collective economic action, so that we can lift our communities, so that we can control our resources, and we can control our narrative. The narrative is ownership. It says entrepreneurship there, that's all that means. The narrative is ownership. So we've got 7 days, like for everyone to write into either info@brackensfsn.com, info@brackens, BRACKENS, FSN.com. I'd like to hear your voice on what you believe collective economic action should be. But for the Syracuse community, for the New York State, okay, community, for the country. We want to go through all three phases, but what should collective economic action look like? I want to hear the voices of those people who are listening to us, because putting together that strategy so that over the next 24 months, why am I saying 24 months? That's the next election cycle. That's the next election cycle. So we need to be on top of that time frame so that we can connect those things very strategically over the next 24 months. So if you have any questions, please give me a call at area code 315-930-4499 or follow us on Facebook. Go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube and view us, I guess you would say link to us on LinkedIn. That's 315-930-4499, info@brackensfsn.com. And I'll say at this point, George, our plate is full.
All right, Vicki Brackens is the president of Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. We'll see you next week. America's Money Maven.